Welcome back to Realty. This is the new and improved. We are well rested over here. We've evolved. I actually was up at 4 in the morning this morning, just like in tears, truly, because I looked at the clock. I made the mistake of going out to the kitchen to look at the clock and
Mm,
then realizing I hadn't slept for more than 45 minutes in a row from like going from kid to kid. And it was my third night in a row. And I just was like, I can't have a day today. And I was like
yeah.
laughing because there's like a new trend on social media. And obviously it sounds like negative, but it's like, I don't want advice if you weren't X. Do you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't want time management advice if you weren't up crying at 4 in the morning and
Yeah.
laying on the ground actually next to a crib last night. Like, I don't want your advice on my time blocking of my day.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah. This is how fancy parenthood is.
I know.
It's glamorous.
So today we were going to jump into succession planning with,
Yeah, I think, one of the reminders that I always get struck with is when I'm connecting with leaders from other companies. And they talk about the fact that this is a big challenge, not only for our industry, but for agents and for companies, is that most agents don't have a succession plan, or their plan involves hiring team members and trying to get them up to speed and then running into all kinds of problems. So I was so excited when you came up with this concept of how to handle succession planning and how to help agents do it utilizing services that some companies, not all companies, but some companies already have in house. So it's just a really beautiful thing. So I'm excited to talk about this. I don't think we can talk about it enough.
all right, let's jump in.
So tell me a little bit about, you did a program that was sort of like getting an MBA in running a real estate company. And so tell us, I think if we back up and people hear about what that program is, it'll help them to understand how you arrived at this.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a program called Ascend, which is crazy 10 years ago now.
Oh
But
my
this
God. Was
program,
that 10 years
Mhm.
ago?
Yeah,
Jeez.
2016.
Wow.
Light years ago. But the concept is they're still doing it, and a lot of great people have gone through it. It's a leadership program, and we really like studied holistically, obviously, like you just said, running real estate companies. But we dug into different things as the year went. It was over the course of a year, around a year. And we dug into different parts of the business. And then at the end, you would create a project that you were going to work on. So basically, like identifying a problem or something a pain point that you want to solve. And one of the things I looked at was just, groupings of ages of salespeople within a company and where your company dollar lies as a broker owner. And that was problematic across the board for basically everyone. And so there's that side of it. That's kind of the selfish side of we need to solve this problem. And then there's the side of it of like the personal side. I worked and have worked and continue to work on all of our mergers and acquisitions and seeing people that haven't thought about this until like not too late, but it's just something that you should be thinking about whether you're an agent or an owner. Like, and we've talked about that a lot on here, more from the
Yeah.
broker side. But like, it's just kind of it's hard to watch people go through that when they weren't prepared to go through that, and
Right.
salespeople for sure. And I just like see all these awesome people that have worked so hard for decades not have a plan. And sadly, we've
Yeah.
been faced in the last 10 years with a lot of illness. I mean,
Yes.
I had two babies and thought about like even just maternity leaves. Like, what are the plans or trying to give yourself a little time if you need it or if a family member needs something? So that's where this was born from. So it was a little bit of like a passion project and a little bit of like a project for the company. And it's evolved for sure because if you look at 2016, we had about 4 years running up to 2020. We started dealing with things one on one at that point. Or one on one meaning like every time an agent came to us, we tried to help them through their process. So we
Yeah.
learned at that point. Then we
Yes.
developed a concept for 2020. And I went into 2020 being like, we are going to be able to tackle this from a broker owner and an agent side. We're going to help like the industry pivot. And then we did a whole lot of different pivoting that year. I had to pivot out because frankly, it got like crazy, you
That's
know?
right. There were so many people who were like, "Yeah, in the next couple of years, I'm going to leave the business," and they were like, "Hold on,
And now
there's a lot of business happening." Right? Yeah, it was
there
amazing
is.
happening. Yeah,
And we're just hitting the point now, 6 years later, that people are like, okay, now I'm ready.
that's
So
right. So,
we're
so can
definitely in
you
pivot.
talk a little bit about that? Because let's talk about what used to be the path. I mean, there was a book that everybody, would read, or I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people would recommend if you were thinking about, what
Yeah.
your succession plan was as an agent. There was a book. So tell us a little bit about that and what that process was, and then the innovative solution you came up with.
Yeah, and not to, you know, disparage anything because that those concepts still exist and they're good
Sure.
ones for some people. But I just found that that wasn't working. And I personally was finding that because when we went through the years of saying, okay, and whoever, right? I'm making up a name, Ann Smith, you want to pivot out, and I'm going to use this concept that basically everybody thinks is a good one, and we're going to help you. And it was like disastrous to the point where I was starting to try to like step in and be like,
Yeah.
I'll just help you. Like some
So
people
what
were
was the
really,
name of the book?
it's called the Golden Handoff. I know they're
Mhm.
still out there. I've seen
Mhm.
like something recently from them, and it is a good concept.
Yes.
It's a good concept for anybody, and it was a great way to start the conversation around it. And nothing is bad about it. And I will say that what we've realized is there isn't a one size fits all solution to
That's
this,
right.
just like
That's
everything in
right.
our business. And so at first we were sort of react and trying to help everybody in that capacity to step back. And then what we realized or decided was that this one person stuff, it doesn't work for the large majority. Some do. I was on a succession planning panel now a year or two ago at the Sotheby's general networking event with someone who had the most wonderful handoff ever.
Yep.
He was on the panel with me and I was like, wow, it was awesome. But you just don't see that very much. And it's not due to anything other than the fact that most salespeople don't have systems unless they have a team, right? There's not, so you're making systems decades after you started your business because they can't really put on paper what they do.
That's right.
Um, and most of the time you can't identify one person who's going to be a
Yeah.
perfect fit. And the thing
Yep.
is once you make this big announcement, which is part of our theory, like, let's not make this big announcement. Once you make this big announcement, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And that person could be the best fit person ever for you. And they could have a life change in 2 years. Their
That's right.
spouse could get relocated. So
That's
our
right.
theory is don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't pick one person and try to say like you're going to have unless, and we have someone that does it beautifully here. She's on the second round of it, Lisa May.
Yep.
You have years. If you have
Yes.
years and it's more like a team, someone
Yes.
is on your team, you're getting to know each other, the clients feel very close to both of you, that is very different.
Yep.
But me saying that I'd like to retire and start to step back effectively basically now or in the next year, and I'm gonna pick Michelle from my office, who I think is an up and comer, and she's great. Well, that's great. She might be great, but do you guys work well together? You know,
Right.
is their style similar to yours? And you might feel like you know the answer to that, but you really don't. It's like a
Well,
marriage.
I think you brought up a really important point, which is the other path, which as you said, has been successful for a number of people, does have a single point of failure. And it doesn't have an insurance policy inherently within it if something happens with that person, whether you have a falling out or their life changes or heaven forbid something happens to them. Now that program doesn't work. And so I thought your idea of kind of shifting that a little bit, taking also the responsibility off of the agent who is considering moving away from the business for whatever reason, that's a huge responsibility to try to find that person and to train them and to bring them in. That can itself be like a full-time job, which if
The
you're
other
already
thing
working a
I
full-time
realized,
job, it's a lot to add on.
right, and the other thing I realized is nobody really wants to be out. And that's
Right.
where we dig in because it's like this is a business where people joke like, "No, I'm gonna go forever. I'm gonna go till
That's
I die."
right.
And it's like,
That's right.
well, if you like some of this so much, I promise you, you don't like some other part. So
Yeah.
when we sit down and it's like, some people are like, "I really wanna be in Florida for the winter." That's it.
Hmm.
Some people are like, "I don't wanna touch anything to do with technology." That's it. Some
Right.
people are not doing any of their CRM or follow-up. It's like, let's dig into what's painful for you and then what you like. Because a lot of people love the client-facing stuff. They'll do, some of the suggestions that we have are like, continue to do those things. If you do 2
Right.
client events a year, do those.
Right.
And the theory that we have is you should have a group of people. So really, your company sort of would have to support you in this, and that's what we have
That's
set
right.
up. We have an entire division at this point, an arm really within the company, but it's subtle. We're doing this right now, but we don't do a lot of external facing on it, and we're not announcing who's stepping back. It's subtle, and we have discretion, and we're making sure that people are stepping back in a way that's comfortable for them.
What I love about that subtlety too is it keeps the business coming, right?
Hmm.
Not only does it allow the agent to be able to change their mind at different times if they decide, actually, this is a part-time thing that I'd like to do, or I'd like to step away, but hey, wait a minute, there's an important client coming in or something like that. Like it gives you some flexibility there. It's pretty special, but it also doesn't tell the world that you are stepping away. So
And
it allows it to keep happening.
you can really cherry pick your deals, right? And that's like it's not selfish to wanna do that, to your point. If you have this big client coming in, perhaps you do have someone that you wanna bring in, but that's gonna be you're
That's right.
working with them. Or
Yep.
you're in Florida, for 3 months and you're referring all your buyer clients. Get to know the group of people in your office that you're making these referrals to, the team that, that you're gonna identify, because you'll know based on you also know that you just gave someone 3 leads and they might be crazy and you're gonna wanna give that to somebody else, so
That's right.
or maybe spread it out. So that's kind of what we suggest. That's a very high level of what we suggest.
Mhm.
But digging into and you can start with asking yourself. I think the 2 biggest things that we say is, like, figure out your sphere
Mhm.
and ask yourself the right questions of, like, what aren't you enjoying? Because the problem is that with people is that no one notices till they're about 20% down or more.
Yes. That's
Don't
right.
get there, right? And people aging is, like, a hard thing, for and I get that, so people are like, "I don't wanna talk about retirement," but then it's so funny because 'cause I'll have people that are, like, 45, not
I
that
was gonna say, yeah, some of the people that have
towards the
raised
age
their
of, like,
hand have been quite
I
young.
wanna plan for 5 years from now, and I'm like, it's ironic because somebody that maybe and not to generalize all ages because people are in different phases, but people that might be at a more stereotypical age to have that conversation, they're like, "Ooh, I don't wanna have that conversation yet," and
Yeah.
I get it, and that's why we're sensitive about it. We're not going to office meetings being like, "Sign up here for succession planning," like, I don't even like to say it in front of a group because I don't wanna look at the wrong person, like, that's how
That's
sensitive
right.
that is, and so we wait for people to come to us, and we've curated like I said, we have a whole department, we have people focused on it, and we've curated plans specifically for people, but we do have our own method, and it's working.
So I love, first of all, everything about this, but I also think there's something interesting about the approach that you've taken, which is that there is a class that people take in order to
Mhm.
prepare. And the great thing about the class is it allows somebody to dig into the idea without committing to doing this. Right. So they dig into the concepts. They are organizing their business in a way that would allow them to enter into that. But what's so funny is the act of organizing their business sometimes prepares them for marketing their business today in
Right.
ways that they haven't done. It's like doing a spring cleaning, which is just amazing. So I think there's value to that class from a understanding, first of all, what you may want to enter into later on, but also for right now, getting your business really, crossing all those T's and dotting all those I's in terms of your book of business itself.
The class was born from needing, like, a prerequisite. Because
Mhm.
we spent a long time of people saying, "I kinda wanna do this," and then we'd spend all this time, like, truly covering a lot, getting really invested, trying to help people identify, who they might wanna use, and then realizing, like, they weren't ready, and not in a negative way, but, like, things weren't organized, and we couldn't help pass on something that it's like somebody on closing day that hasn't moved out of their house yet, right? Like, we can't help you until we have, like, some stuff in order. I can hire a mover, I can hire a packer, I can do, like, all these things,
Right.
but, like, we need a little bit of, like, a start, and you need to be prepared for what's coming, and so we did that for our own sake to kind of say to our agents, "You gotta do this first, and then we'll, like" and it's not like a negative thing or, like, homework, it's more like, "We'll walk you through this, we'll hold your hand the whole way." But these are like the 5 to 10 steps that you have to take in order to like, for this to be successful. And we've had some people really embrace it. We had someone doing actively over like 100,000,000 that called in February 2 years ago. She said, "I wanna be done in July." And I was like,
Whoa.
"What?" And that was like one of the first ones when we really were like ready to go, and she did exactly what we said, and it was really natural to her, but not exactly what we said. Like, we have a framework, and then she made it work for her. It's been incredible, incredible for her, incredible for the people that she's passing business on to, and you know what? Incredible for the client too,
That's
because
right.
you're doing them a favor when you look at it. I'll use this telling blue in the face, and it's an example I constantly give. My financial advisor, love her, have a really good rapport with her, right? I don't wanna have to find another one, but if she sent out an email where talk to her once a year. If she sent out an email right now other than hearing from her, you know what I mean? A meeting. If she sent out an email right now and said, "I'm retiring, and this is who your new person is." That would be an invitation for me to be like, "I'm on the market."
That's right.
Everybody I would be like, "Who do you use?" Because it's like, I don't know that person, like, I don't know if that's my new financial advisor.
Right.
And I'm kind of off topic, but that's the big reason that's like, don't make this formal announcement. Your phone's not going to stop ringing and you don't want it to. I'm sorry,
That's right.
that's the business that you're in. Whether you're a broker owner or a salesperson, like your assets have legs. There are no assets. Like, so your phone's going to keep ringing and we have to deal with that. Right. So you don't want to make some big announcement just being like, stop emailing me. You want to figure out a
Right.
that you can so what I'd say is if they started to bring that person to like, I'm invited to like client appreciation things and I started warming up to that person. And then on my next meeting, that person was listening and it's like a clear transition. And you know what? You did me a favor because I didn't have to do any research because maybe that's
Right.
a great fit for me too.
Now you've got a relationship, and that's the
Mhm.
thing, is this is a relationship business. And so I love this from the standpoint of helping agents turn all of the effort they've put in over the years into an annuity in a way, right? With their book of business. But on top of that, as you said, having that warm handoff that allows clients to feel really comfortable with that next chapter. Because the reality is, this being a relationship business, they may have bought rented their first apartment with this agent. They may have purchased their first home. They may have purchased the home that they raised their children in if they decided to do that. By the time that this agent may be ready to step away, this client may still have several more moves to go. And it's an infrequent enough transaction, and it is something that usually is coupled with another big change in life, a change in job, a change in marital status, so, whatever it is, that to have to start again with somebody new is tough. So if you've had that warm handoff and you're the person that you've trusted is still involved in the picture in some way, it does make it a lot easier. I agree.
One of the big questions that we get a lot are about so like after all of that, right? The concept, and we're giving a high level concept, and we're happy to talk to anybody about this. One of the questions we get a lot are just like contracts and what's the setup. And I can't
Mhm.
tell you how many different ones. I just had a consult call with a top producer on our team like a week or two ago, and it specifically was like, there's an agent outside of her company, right? There's
Yep.
opportunity there too. And his relationships are mostly developer focused. And like, how would I set those up? And so this never stops. Like, this isn't just like a one size fits all. We have this framework. It's like each person needs to be we need to sit down, we need to figure out what the relationship is, but everybody wants to know, like, do we have contracts? What's the standard, like, fee situation? And unfortunately, and again, it can't be one size fits all. It's very specific to the relationships and typically to the deals, but some people do, I will say, just because so many people ask, and I know it's probably the question if someone's listening to this. There's, like, 2 options. When you said sunset, like, there's a 3 to 5 year thing here, and that's really what it is. Unless you're completely active. If you're, like, 50% active, you might be able to extend that, but, like, that's gonna be the time that you're passing off. So you wanna see, like, what's the amount that I feel like I want to make? And what we say is, like, you're typically gonna make, like, a your peak one of your peak years in 3 to 5 years. That's what you should plan on. So when you call it an annuity, that's what we're looking at from a number standpoint, and that's a good, successful transition out of this business. I would say that that's successful. So say 2021 was your peak year, you're thinking about stepping back now, you go through this process in the next 3-ish years to make what you need in 2021 in referrals or 3 to 5, fantastic. 3 years strong, 2 years really kind of sunsetting.
That's right.
And some people there's 2 different ways that people will go about this, especially if they've designed a team, like we say. So say, Colleen, you're gonna enter into this and you would pick 3 to 5 people that might be in one office, or maybe they're scattered around a few different like with us, we have different regions. And what you would say is you can either offer me a larger than typical referral on everything I send you. I like that because it's just less to track. But it's like what I'm giving you as a gift because if you do a good job, you will get so much more from this one person, but that's on them, not on you. And so it's just this like you're getting paid for the intro and you're getting paid that little bit more because you're passing on something that should grow. Some people want a little bit off of what grows from it. And that works really well for them too, because people and they have a great relationship. They're very honest and they'll be like, if their brother buys, if they eventually sell this, I will always keep this in my database as the lead that came from you. And you will have that bit of, you'll know that that will come in and that might make it more of an annuity. And that would be more of like that team structure
Mhm.
because you would have access to that. Not that you can't trust people, but access to that
Right.
CRM or whatever it is. But if you're just picking 5 people and you don't have a team, and I would say make that first 3 years strong, take that bigger hit on the first ones and don't try to split hairs on the rest of it. But if you have a team structure and you really know people well and you feel like, no, you know what I'm going to do is I need this to last a couple years, that's how I would do it. And then in terms of legal contracts, a lot of people have, examples out there in the world of, I hate to say it, but like AI, like you could confuse. So we don't have one that we're handing out, that's for sure. And those are the most common questions I get. What's the structure? What's the timeline? And do you have a contract you're handing people? We don't.
Yeah.
But we have some very high level outlines of options that we can share.
That's great. So, what should somebody do? Let's say there's an agent out there right now who's hearing this and they say, this is something I might want to avail myself of or at least learn more about it. What's the process they should go to?
If you're, I mean, just reach out to me. It's something that I think just people feel like is such a big lift, and with a little support, it's really not. It's not that bad, and you don't have to think of it as black and white.
Hmm.
You can think of it as the first year, you're stepping back 20%, next
I
year,
love that.
30%. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for the time on this. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited about the next chapter for all of our agents.